And that was a long, long movie. If you're counting at 142 minutes, that is Alfred Hitchcock's longest movie. And boy, and now you have to listen to me for a few minutes, so I'll try to be quick. This was too long. It had too many characters for me. There was too much going on. Books can be a little bit sprawling, and we've seen it before that that books need to be boiled down to a great script. And sometimes that is at the cost of leaving out a lot of the book or changing a lot of the things with the book, which of course angers everybody who loved the book. And if that's the case, then don't make the book into a movie. Sam Taylor simply didn't have enough time to write a good script. And, you know, I'm sitting there watching it, because we've seen it a few times before, thinking, well, you know, why didn't they just combine these two characters and boil it down? You know, like combine John Forsythe's character with Devereaux's character, and but how do you do that? I mean, he's an American, and it was a French government, and I don't know. And really, it's Universal's fault, because they forced the author, Leon Uris, on Hitchcock, who is not a scriptwriter. I think he's written 2 or 3 screenplays in his life, but he's famous for writing books. In fact, one of my mother's favorite books is Mila 18. And he, you know, Leon wrote Exodus. He's, you know, a really big name, and certainly his books have been turned into great movies, but this isn't one of them. So Alfred Hitchcock couldn't really delay production. That's the other problem is, you know, we were having this discussion the other day with Torn Curtain even, because that script wasn't ready. Why not just delay production? Well, because Julie Andrews was on a set amount of time. Well, great, then recast her, you know, do what you got to do. Well, he couldn't, because the production had already started on Topaz, and the money was already being spent, and once you've started, I guess in 1968 or 69, whenever they were doing this, you can't do that. So what we have on our hands is another box office failure. And Topaz was expensive. This ended up costing a lot of money, mostly because of the huge sets that they ended up building. That whole hotel, the scene in Manhattan, which was in Harlem, where they send in the spy to photograph the images from the Cubans. That whole thing was a very expensive set, elaborate set that was built. And you know, for us, if Topaz was a half an hour shorter, we would have thought it was great. I mean, certainly, is it going to be in our top 10 Hitchcock movies of all time? No. But the guy made a lot of great movies, and certainly this would have been one of them. It would have been great. But and like I said, editing is not the problem. It's not the fault of the editor here. It's just that they just didn't have a script ready. I can only imagine what it would have been like, you know, before they fixed it. It would have been unwatchable. But like I said, a couple of characters really could have been amalgamated together. And speaking of characters, I just have a problem with John Vernon as Rico Parra playing this Cuban guy. And I'm sorry, was there a redheaded Cuban in there? I didn't think that was very good. And I'm just used to seeing him as the Dean Wormer in Animal House. So. And the ending. Well, let's talk about the ending. The ending, which couldn't come soon enough. In fact, you were sort of saying, how much is left in this? And I said, you know, 37 minutes. And you sort of said, didn't we already wrap this up? I mean, didn't we? No. The original ending, and depending on which version you're watching, the original ending was not what you just saw. The original ending was the French agent and the French guy who turned out to be the collaborator, the spy. They have a duel. They pull out guns and they have a duel to the death. And that ending was just rejected by audiences in test screenings in Los Angeles. They thought it was stupid and you know, hilarious. And so Hitchcock had no choice but to come up with other ideas. And on the DVD you're probably watching, go ahead if you haven't already and go to the extras page and watch the other 2 alternate endings. The ending we see, where they're both getting on the plane, and Devereaux looks over and sees his friend who got away with it, and he smiles at him like, oh, that rascal, they're not going to get him. That's dumb. That's a dumb ending. He's your best friend, and now he's a Soviet spy. I mean, and you're gonna smile and think, oh, he's a rascal. That's just stupid. And boy, the ending I do like, which I believe was on the German version of Topaz, was where after they exposed this guy as the double agent, the Soviet spy, he goes back to his house and commits suicide and shoots himself. It's just that it was too late to shoot that, and when you watch that ending, you can see someone go into that apartment, and you know it's his apartment. But that wasn't him, because they never shot that actor. It's all just spliced together, and you know, you can tell it isn't perfect. But talk about abrupt endings. Either way, they're all pretty abrupt, and so check those endings out. It's fun. All of the characters and plot lines would have been better maybe in a mini-series. Maybe if Topaz could have been, you know, 3-hour-long episodes on television. Because, you know, just when we're getting interested in something, like the guy up in Harlem who's a pretty cool spy, didn't you want to spend more time with him? And you're thinking, was that even the same movie? That was so long ago. Or you know, bringing the Russian spy back to the safe house, and what, you know, we spend so much time being invested in his family. Or the spies in Cuba, that family that seemed to know everything about putting microfilm in razor blades. I mean, to spend more time with those guys. But just as we're getting interested in some characters, they're gone and we're off to somewhere else. So I don't think they had mini-series back in the late 60s. But they ought to have done that, and maybe Hitchcock could have invented them, because he was already really good at television. He had that show for you know, 8 years running and being a success. But anyway, some parts of this movie certainly were excellent. We loved the death scene where Rico Parra shoots Juanita, and she's wearing that beautiful purple dress. I mean, the first time I saw that, I was shocked that he killed her, that he shot her. Although we certainly knew he was mad at her. And when she falls, if you recall, the camera is sort of going up as she's falling to her death, and her dress just kind of folds out onto the ground. Well, they did that on purpose. They had the dress attached with string, and then 5 different people were pulling her dress out as she goes to the floor. Very, very wonderful cinematic moment. But you just have to wait so long to get it. The other interesting thing to me is that the actress playing that character, Juanita, she's actually, I remembered her from the James Bond movie, You Only Live Twice. And if I think of it, I'll link up the scene of her with James Bond. She's a henchman for one of the bad guys in You Only Live Twice. So anyways, there are other Hitchcockian moments in this film, and I don't want to get into them because it's late and we gotta wrap this up. So the cameo was at about 30 minutes. Alfred Hitchcock was at the airport. He's in a wheelchair and he gets up, maybe signifying his age and his ill health. But and yeah, no doubt, this was 3 flops in a row for Alfred Hitchcock. It's been a long time. Has that ever happened? I don't think so. And the last 2, at least, being partly the studio's fault, not to blame Universal. But I wonder if they'll leave him alone for his next project. His second last movie, his penultimate movie, Frenzy, so we shall see. 1969, to compare, 69 was a great year in movies. Midnight Cowboy won Best Picture, which is, if you haven't seen it, you gotta. It's great, with Dustin Hoffman and Jon Voight. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid with Paul Newman, who of course was in Torn Curtain, was that year. Easy Rider is from 1969 with Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper. That is a great movie, boy. And the original True Grit was with John Wayne, was filmed, which the remake is actually very good, the one with Jeff Bridges, so whatever. Anyways, okay, so good. We're done with 1969, and we're moving on to next week's Frenzy. We'll see if the studio leaves him alone. We'll see how that works out. And it is Alfred Hitchcock's second last film, so we look forward to it. It'll be our second last film, and we'll see you then. So from our couch to yours, we'll see you next week.